Hi everyone, my name is Jessica. I'm a student at the University of West Alabama. I'm working on my master's in early childhood education. Today I will be presenting my signature project and I will be discussing information and all my findings regarding poor reading fluency among second grade students' academic achievement. Here's some background information on fluency issues. Fluency issues in reading have been identified as a problem in schools worldwide. Every time we look at a reading assessment where we can do a comparison to pre-pandemic, there is a dramatic decline. This problem has been steadily deteriorating since the pandemic, as students were exposed to an altogether new method of instruction during the pandemic. Online learning replaced the face-to-face training students previously received in an organized classroom. To keep on track with their homework, students must develop self-discipline. It was more difficult to understand the teacher's instructions and the subject being taught when face-to-face education was given because both the students and the teacher were wearing masks. Despite the pandemic ending, its consequences on students' educational opportunities continued to be a problem. The educational gap grew because students in earlier grades had less instructional time because they were learning virtually. Now students have advanced to the next grade level without reading at their grade level, leaving educators to bridge the gap for these students. Now that students are back in school and receiving face-to-face education, more explicit reading instruction is needed to get these students back on track. Reading is the cornerstone of all subjects, and if a student cannot read fluently, they may struggle in other subject areas. Students who have trouble reading struggled academically through school, sometimes barely completing each grade level. Some students with reading difficulties lack access to quality reading instruction, and many of them had a difficult childhood due to adverse environmental factors. Per the Matthew Effect, students who struggle to read can feel discouraged, making it more difficult for them to remain involved in reading. Because of this, educators must use scaffolding to assist kids who have difficulty reading. Scaffolding, as described by Vygotsky's theory, involves varying the level of assistance, both in terms of quality and quantity, offered to a kid during a lesson. Scaffolding allows teachers to better support their students by modeling the skill they are teaching to them. Vygotsky believed when children are given instructions, they store them in their pre-existing mental schemas. Children utilize this information to guide them until they can accomplish it on their own. Therefore, it is important to model the skill being taught. Piaget's stages can help students learn how to read, especially for those in the pre-operational stage. These cognitive skills form the baseline for reading with comprehension to develop and build on the phonetic skills established during the pre-operational stage to teach independent reading. Fluency is important because it builds a bridge between word recognition and comprehension. It allows students time to focus on what the text is saying. Students are able to make connections between what they are reading and their own background knowledge. Therefore, they are able to concentrate on comprehension or comprehending what they are reading. And this is extremely important because this will help them in other academic areas. And due to COVID and going virtually, kids did have to learn in a new manner. So with this background information that I've just read, it shows that kids are behind and how important reading fluency is. The problem that will be addressed in this quantitative research is poor reading fluency among second grade students' academic achievement. The lost learning opportunities that students lost due to COVID-19 may have lifelong consequences for many of them if they are not provided with additional instructional support. This was discovered to be a problem since reading fluency difficulties in second graders stem from a lack of explicit core reading instructions because of varied teaching techniques during COVID-19. Since the pandemic, the researchers' observations have revealed reading fluency issues. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a troubling impact on the reading skills of kids in the youngest grade. The study examines the influence of poor reading fluency on academic achievement among second grade students when additional explicit instructions are applied. The COVID-19 epidemic has affected schooling across the globe since 2020. Increased attention is being paid to the potential harm to students' learning and the requirement for specialized help. Here is a figure, or figure 1 is a DIBELS breakdown for students, and figure 2 is the Matthew effect, and I will explain both of these in my next slide. Figure 1 depicts the breakdown of the DIBELS test, which is used to assess reading fluency. In the figure, it shows 7 kids are well below the benchmark, 7 students are below the benchmark, and 1 student is at the benchmark. This DIBELS test report indicates that students with low reading fluency require further explicit teaching. Students in this breakdown were previously subjected to a learning setting in which masks were worn, resulting in insufficient learning quality. Some students learned virtually the previous year, while others came to school with face-to-face instructions. Virtual learners lacked reading abilities, resulting in a gap in their academic success. Data shows that some children gained from face-to-face explicit instruction, while others are still falling behind because of school closures and not having the assistance of a teacher in a structured setting face-to-face. Figure 2 illustrates the Matthew effect, which demonstrates how skilled readers improve faster while weaker readers improve at a slower pace. As a result, prompt intervention is essential to aid the readers who are reading at a slower pace. Academic achievement. Fluent reading skills are important to a student's academic achievement. Students must master decoding, phonological awareness, speed, and accuracy. A learner who masters these abilities will be able to read more fluently. As a result, individuals can read comfortably and comprehend the content they read. Reading fluency may help students succeed in other areas by giving them the tools they need. The academic success and fluency of a student may suffer from a lack of basic reading abilities that can be taught in the classroom using a variety of assistant methods. With continued research and national reports that indicate the significant contributions of oral reading fluency to reading comprehension and academic proficiency, it is clear that the roots of oral reading run deep and that fluent reading development is important to learners' academic achievement and reading comprehension. Research suggests using interactive repeating reading and decoding to improve fluency. First, instructors providing students with more reading practice could help students to read more quickly and efficiently. Second, educators should include more lessons that educate students to recognize letter patterns. And finally, teachers can help students develop phonological awareness abilities by teaching them how to isolate, blend, substitute, delete, and blend letters and letter sounds. The teacher can scaffold and assist students by modeling important skills. Students' reading independence can be increased by providing explicit instructions. The action plan and timeline for this study is as follows. First, students will be tested to retrieve baseline results. Next, students will receive an hour of additional explicit instructions in reading. And lastly, the students will be tested again to see if there has been any growth in reading fluency. The timeline for this study is August 2022 to November 2022. Students will be provided with an hour of repeated reading and phonological awareness activities. The teacher will model the phonological skills to the student using a we will do, I do, you do, we strategy with phonological skills. The teacher will model phonological skills including blending, isolating, deleting, substituting, and letter sounds. Then the teacher will provide explicit instructions on decoding and modeling to the students before completing repeated reading consisting of the teacher reading and then the students reading. Students will then reread the passages that were previously read. This work will occur for an hour each day until the study concludes. Some key terms here are reading fluency, and that is the capability of reading with accuracy. The Matthew effect, which is the concept that readers who struggle continue to struggle more, and readers who do not struggle continue to improve for their reading skills. Bridge the gap, which is meeting each child's needs in the areas where they struggle, such as academically, socially, emotionally, and cognitively. Benchmark that measures the strengths and weaknesses of individual students, and DIBELS, which is the tool that is being used to assess students, is an assessment used to measure fluency, accuracy by taking short tests throughout the year so teachers can intervene if needed. The sampling will be from Cedar Hill Elementary in a Title I school serving approximately 560 students from grades pre-K through 5th with a 16:1 teacher-student ratio. The students participating in the study attend second grade. Each participant included in the study will participate in an hour of reading instruction. The role of the participant is to take part in the activities that are offered during the study. The participants will be assessed twice during the study, so they will take part in the DIBELS test. The research will be administered through a quantitative study. The results from the DIBELS assessment will be obtained and used for collecting data. To make sure each student has a fair chance of getting selected from the experimental group, random sampling will be used as the method for collecting data from the 15 students participating in this study. Also, the group of students that will participate in this quantitative study will be randomly selected second grade students from Cedar Hill. Overall, second grade students' reading scores are lower than they should be. The selected participants will all receive the same instructions, remain in the same classroom, and will be assessed by the DIBELS test at the beginning and end of the year. The null hypothesis for this study is when explicit core instructions are implemented, student fluency reading scores will not increase, and the alternative hypothesis is when explicit core instructions are implemented, student fluency reading scores will improve. And a T-test will be used to test the hypothesis to see which worked, if explicit core instruction when implemented improved reading scores, or if the scores did not improve. Collaborative resources. The academic success and fluency of a student may suffer from a lack of basic reading abilities that can be taught in the classroom using a variety of assistance methods with continued research and national reports that indicate the significant contributions of oral reading fluency to reading comprehension and academic proficiency. It is clear that the roots of oral reading run deep, and that fluent reading development is important to learners' academic achievement and reading comprehension. Research suggests using interactive repeating reading, decoding to improve fluency. Instructors will provide reading practice to read more quickly and efficiently. Educators will include more lessons so students can recognize letter patterns. And finally, teachers can help students develop phonological awareness abilities by teaching them how to isolate, blend, and substitute letter sounds. And the ethical considerations. Students that will participate in this study, their names will not be used. There will be numbers assigned to students randomly. All the information pertaining to the students will remain confidential during the study and after the study. Parents will need to sign a consent form for their child to participate in the study. Some things that may affect students that are in this study are student absences could interfere with the study because they will not receive an extra hour of explicit instructions, impacting their ability to perform higher on the DIBELS. Students not missing additional instructions should not be affected. Students will be assessed by an unfamiliar teacher, which could play a role in how students perform on their test. Other limitations consist of making sure the students are in a well-lit area and a noise-free environment so they can perform well on the test. Also, students that may not have the necessary materials due to socioeconomic factors will be provided with the necessary materials to partake in this study. The results, students will be assessed with a DIBELS test. Students will be assessed at the beginning of the study in August of 2022 and then again in November 2022 to compare the results to see if the additional explicit instructions in reading were effective or not. In Figure 1 in a previous slide, it depicted the breakdown of the DIBELS test, which is used to assess reading fluency. And that's where we notice that 7 students are well below the benchmark, 7 are below the benchmark, and 1 is at the benchmark. The DIBELS test did indicate that students with low reading fluency required further explicit teaching. And Figure 2, which I will show in a few seconds, shows that 3 students are below benchmark, 10 students are at benchmark, and 1 student is above benchmark, and that is what I would like to see at the end of the study. And here is Figure 1 showing the 7 students well below benchmark, the 7 students below benchmark, and then the 1 student at benchmark, and we had nobody above benchmark. And then Figure 2 is what I would like to see at the end of this study, where we had 1 student well below benchmark, 3 students below benchmark, 10 students at benchmark, and then 1 above benchmark. Reflections on this study. Reading is the gateway to student academic achievement. When teachers use explicit instructions in reading, this equips the student with the necessary skills they need to succeed in reading and in other subject matters. Students need clear instructions so they can grasp the concept that is being taught. Students' self-esteem and self-confidence improve when they can read fluently, giving them the determination to excel in school. Overall, students need encouragement and someone who believes in them. So if I had to do anything different, I would just give students a lot of encouragement and a lot of effective praise to boost their self-confidence and their self-esteem so that they know that somebody believes in them, that they can reach their goal in reading.